Imagine standing on the edge of a vast ocean. You see the waves crashing, hear the wind howling, and feel the weight of uncertainty pressing on you. You know you are called to walk into the water, but why does it feel so difficult? Why does it feel like God is silent when you need Him the most? If you have ever felt like life is testing you beyond your limits, if you have ever wondered why your prayers seem to go unanswered, take heart. You are not being abandoned. You are being prepared. God does not waste pain, and He never calls someone without first refining them. Today, let's explore the powerful signs that God is testing and preparing you for your divine calling. 1. The season of silence. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "The teacher is always silent during the test." This resonates deeply with anyone who has felt the ache of God's silence in their hardest moments. When you pray and hear nothing, when the heavens seem closed, know that God is still working. Just as Jesus felt forsaken on the cross, yet was fulfilling His greatest purpose, so too are you walking through a season where faith must rise even when feelings fail. Think of Job, a righteous man, stripped of everything, left sitting in the dust. He could not understand why God allowed such suffering, yet he declared, "Though He slay me, yet will I trust Him." When God seems silent, He is often strengthening your trust. He is teaching you to walk by faith and not by sight. Another example is Mother Teresa, who, despite dedicating her life to serving God, wrote in her personal letters about experiencing long periods of spiritual dryness where she could not feel His presence. And yet, she never stopped serving, never stopped believing. Sometimes, God's silence is not His absence. It is His invitation for us to trust Him even more deeply. 2. The weight of trials. Have you felt like everything is going wrong? That no matter what you do, life keeps throwing obstacles in your path? This is not a sign that you are failing. It's a sign that you are being forged. Gold is purified in fire, and so is your spirit. Trials are God's way of refining you, stripping away anything that weakens your purpose. C.S. Lewis reminds us, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Moses spent 40 years in the desert before leading Israel. Joseph endured betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment before saving nations. Every great calling is preceded by great testing. If you are facing intense trials, rejoice. God sees you worthy of the calling He is preparing you for. Imagine a soldier training for battle. They do not sit in comfort. They endure harsh conditions, rigorous training, and relentless discipline. Why? Because the battlefield will demand their strength. Likewise, your trials are preparing you for a battle that requires faith, endurance, and wisdom. 3. Closed doors and divine redirection. You thought that job, that opportunity, that relationship was the path to your calling, until it vanished. Closed doors are not punishments. They are redirections. God removes what is not meant for you so He can place you where you truly belong. C.S. Lewis wrote, "Getting over a painful experience is much like crossing monkey bars. You have to let go at some point to move forward. If you are facing rejection, do not be discouraged. God is guiding your steps, even when the road ahead is unclear. Trust that He is removing distractions so you can step into your true purpose." Think of Paul in the Bible. He had plans to preach in certain areas, but God closed those doors and led him to Macedonia instead. What seemed like a setback was actually a divine setup. Sometimes, the door you are banging on is not meant to open because God has a better one waiting for you. 4. The call to step out in faith. Peter only walked on water when he stepped out of the boat. Abraham only became the father of nations when he left his homeland. Your calling requires action, even when the path is uncertain. Has God been nudging you towards something new? Has He been stirring your heart towards a purpose bigger than yourself? Fear will tell you to stay where it is safe, but faith will tell you to walk forward. There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. C.S. Lewis reminds us, God is testing your willingness to trust Him before revealing the fullness of your calling. Imagine a young musician who is incredibly gifted but is afraid to perform in front of others. If he never steps on stage, he will never fulfill his calling. Likewise, your calling may require a step of faith that feels terrifying, but that's where growth begins. 5. Unusual spiritual warfare. When you are on the verge of stepping into your purpose, the enemy will try to stop you. Have you felt increased fear, doubt, or attacks on your identity? This is not a sign to give up. It is proof that you are getting closer to your breakthrough. Ephesians 6 verse 12 reminds us that our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces. When God is preparing you for something great, the enemy will try to make you question your worth. Hold on to the promises of God. Speak His truth over your life. You are more than a conqueror, and no weapon formed against you will prosper. Look at Jesus. Before He began His ministry, He was tempted in the wilderness. The enemy came at Him with doubt. If you are the Son of God, but Jesus stood firm in His identity. If you are facing attacks, it is because your purpose is significant. 6. A new level of dependence on God. Before God entrusts you with your calling, He will teach you to depend on Him completely. This may mean removing things you relied on, your comfort zone, your financial stability, even relationships. But this is not to harm you. It is to strengthen your faith. C.S. Lewis said, "Relying on God has to begin all over again every day as if nothing had yet been done. God is your source. The more you rely on Him, the more He can pour into you. Let Him lead you step by step, even when the journey feels uncertain. A child learning to walk often stumbles, but they keep going because they trust their parents' hands are nearby. Likewise, you may stumble, but God's hands are always there." 7. The test of humility and character. A calling is not just about what you do. It is about who you become. Before God releases you into your purpose, He will refine your character. This means teaching you humility, patience, and perseverance. If you are being humbled, know that God is positioning you for something greater. C.S. Lewis reminds us, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. Your calling is not about status or recognition. It is about serving others and glorifying God. Joseph went from a prisoner to a ruler because he maintained integrity even in hardship. God is more interested in who you are becoming than what you are achieving. You are being prepared for greatness. If you recognize these signs in your life, do not be discouraged. You are in the hands of the master craftsman, and He is molding you for something greater than you can imagine. Your trials are not wasted. Your waiting is not in vain. You are being tested, refined, and prepared for a purpose beyond your understanding. So stand firm. Keep trusting. Keep walking forward. God's timing is perfect, and when the moment comes, you will step into your calling with strength, wisdom, and unshakable faith. The best is yet to come. Trust in the process, for God is leading you into something extraordinary.